Welcome to the podcast, Cleaning Processes with Jerry. This podcast is dedicated to building an online community of like-minded individuals and businesses in the cleaning industry. We're going to share some ideas, tips, solutions, and even try to expand our markets as we solve problems and help others. Please join me where every other week we might have a special guest that could very well be you. I work for Chem Station of Boston, based out of New England. I also run the site Hospitality Cleaning 101. If you ever have a problem, question, or would like to join our show, feel free to reach out. If you'd like your question to be asked on the show, we'll be glad to do that as well. Today, we're going to do a solo podcast, and we're going to talk about imagination in the sales cycle. Thanks for joining. And again, thanks for joining me today. Today's podcast goes back to a podcast I did 2 weeks ago. Did a podcast on the selling of chemicals in cleaning if we were selling something tangible versus intangible. I received a couple phone calls, emails, texts concerning that, and everyone seemed to have liked the podcast. I didn't get any complaints, but different people brought up different questions, and it's motivating this podcast today. Again, me taking it solo, because 2 weeks ago I had a very poor voice, and it's better now, but we're already into February. But it has to do with imagination. Imagination goes kind of with that intangible selling. Putting ideas, letting somebody visualize something, because I found that having imagination can benefit both my clients as well as potential clients. Imagination is a magical gift. Let's just use it that way. It's a magical gift that we are all born with. Our minds are filled with endless possibility as children. The reason I say this is 2 weekends ago, I had an extended weekend with my grandchildren. Watching young children will teach you more about imagination than you'd ever believe. And as you sit there and watch them as an adult, you realize all the things that possibly not have passed you by, but you wished you had some of that imagination. They have make-believe friends. If they go outside, it's for an epic adventure. If they get a gift, they can find more things to build, like a spaceship with the box versus what actually was in the box, because their imagination is going nonstop. It's how they communicate. They have make-believe friends. It's kind of unbelievable. Then I guess it took me by surprise, because it is all imagination. Now, as adults, we don't have to lose that imagination totally. One of the reasons we do lose our imagination, my opinion, it's called a cell phone. A cell phone gives you dings, alerts, special bulletins. None of it is that I've won the lottery. It's always a problem, someone needs a solution, and such. That takes your brain out of what you were thinking to now something else. And it really eliminates any time you might be able to have to actually daydream, to think outside the box, to take your whole body and mind to a different place. The reason I say that is we as salespeople, we need to think outside the box to come up with solutions. I'm sure you'll agree some of the best solutions you've ever found for your customers or potential customers, it wasn't from a textbook. It was from your imagination taking over and coming up with an idea that they hadn't heard of. You might have not dreamt it, but imagined it in your mind working for them and why it would work for them. Like I said, adults don't have to lose their imagination. Two adults who were there's many adults. I'm thinking of two adults that have great imaginations was the late Walt Disney. Walt Disney made his complete empire of the parks, the movies, everything he's done was built through imagination. The next was Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein has a quote that says that it's not knowledge, but it's the imagination that takes you forward. Might not be quoting that correctly, but that's about as close as it can be. But Steve Jobs building the Apple computer, the Apple iPhone, just did it by looking outside the box to do something different. If you look at all of our inventions today, it's for someone doing something with the imagination. Do you realize, and I don't know the person who came up with it, but the people who built Uber, do you realize when they built Uber, they answered about 6 problems right off the bat. Bang, 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 bang. That we had all in the world had just taken it for granted. This is the way it's going to be. You get in the cab, you know what the driver looks like. You have a license plate on the car. You get a receipt when you leave. You don't have to bring out your credit card. That's not the way it used to be just a couple years ago. Do you remember the headaches we used to have to go through? Getting off a little bit, but maybe I'm not. It's the imagination of people coming up with solutions to meet someone else's needs. Again, it goes directly into that intangible selling that we were talking about last week. Couple ways that I've tried to expand my imagination is that recently, first I bought a book on it or got a Kindle on it. I started journaling, and I had journaled before. However, I had gotten this book on journaling, and it's 50 chapters, and I'll put a link to it at the bottom, but it's like 50 chapters. Every chapter is written by a different author, and every author has a different way of journaling. And it's extremely fascinating because each one is telling you how to think different and how to get it out on paper as fast as possible. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about capitalization. Don't worry about anything. Just get the thoughts out there. I've read one chapter a morning. Takes me 5 minutes. Then I go and do 5 to 10 minutes of journaling, basically on what the person has taught me about. Just totally has opened my mind. Totally. Let's be honest. It's better than turning on the TV and watching politics. So I do that every morning. Second, I read a fair amount. However, I'm a slow reader, but I read a fair amount. I never knew till I talked to a friend. He says he reads 5 books at a time. I only read 1 book at a time. But in this process, someone has brought to my attention, asked me the different books I read, and they were all nonfiction. They were Anthony Iannarino about negativity fast. It might be a sales. It might be on journaling. However, my next book's going to be on fiction. I haven't picked one out. If you can recommend one, please send me an email. I want to look outside the box. Look at something that's not real, but something that I have to imagination for. With this same thing, I've put an app on my phone and I've done meditation. I've worked meditation before. However, I found out when I started journaling, meditation came easier and better. Again, it all comes back to imagination, what we can do with it. With our imagination, aren't we trying to solve our customers or clients' problems? Isn't that the end game? Aren't we trying to do it maybe a faster way, more economical way, something with better results? Again, those answers don't always come in the textbooks. Think with your imagination, and I think you'll be a lot more successful. In closing today, let's remember that imagination is not just for children. It's a powerful tool that can enrich every aspect of our lives. By embracing our imagination, we open ourselves to endless possibilities. Remember to use imagination to take our selling, maintaining of customers to the next level. Imagination is not just for children. It's for all of us. I'd love to hear some feedback from you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for joining Jerry today, and we wish to thank you, the listener. If you like the information we are sharing here, please subscribe, like, and share. If you have a question that you would like answered on the show, then just please make that request in advance. Remember, the opinions shared on this podcast are Jerry's, and he will be responsible for them. If you have any questions, ideas, or comments, or would like to become a guest, please send an email to jerry@hospitalitycleaning101.com. Have a great day. Remember to wash your hands for 20 seconds and stay safe.